Ready? Yes. Okay, welcome. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:01. And Tiffany, would you call the roll, please?
Joe Pishneri.
Here.
Daniel Davidson.
Here.
Cindy Koza.
Here.
Jonathan Hayes.
Here.
Carla Berg.
Here.
Teresa Dillon.
Here.
Adam Jenkins.
Here.
Brett Yancey.
Here.
Eric Adams.
Here.
Okay. Thank you. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes and do we have any corrections?
Did you find any corrections?
Yeah, did you find any corrections?
I did not this time.
100%.
You did. I'm going to give you a gold star. Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, business from the audience is next.
We don't have anybody online. Do you have any business?
Okay, then I guess I don't need to read this then. Right?
That's
Oh, no. All right. So we don't have a community response now. We have business from the Field Police Department.
So thanks everybody for coming tonight. Do we have a full house tonight? Are we missing anybody?
We're not missing anyone.
Outstanding.
Everybody is here.
Well,
We can have
got
pizza.
everybody here. A few things to update about. So first thing, I'll talk about accreditation. In 2021, there was a House bill passed that is going to require accreditation, I think, for every agency in the state of 35 officers. So that went into effect in 2021. I came here in 2021 and accreditation was one of the things that we were planning on pursuing, and they passed that House bill, so we had to get after it. So we started that process at the end of 2022. It's typically like an 18 to 20 month process to get accredited. We assigned Lieutenant Crawley, our accreditation manager, and he began that in early 2023, like March is when we went full steam ahead. And today, the auditor from the Northwest Accreditation Alliance came, did the final, basically inspection of everything, all our policies, spent several hours here interviewing folks, talking to folks. And then I met with him at the end of that visit. And he basically said, SPD is outstanding. I'm gonna write up my report, submit it to the executive director who brings it to the board and votes on it. He's like, but I didn't find a single thing that we need to fix.
Wow.
Because I go to agencies for reaccreditation because I have to do it every 2 years and I find more to fix than you guys. So that was outstanding. That's been a tremendous amount of work being by the whole team, but really Lieutenant Crawley deserves kudos. He really busted his hump getting that done. So we'll be presented with that accreditation, I think in April. So we got another couple months of the work process, but we are great. Something we're super excited about.
That's an amazing chance. I would love to see that as a council item.
Yeah, we will, but I don't want to get, I guess I'm oversharing it already. I don't want to be sure because they haven't given us the document saying we're accredited.
It's
But I
not
know
done
it's
till it's done.
not done until it's done, but for all intents and purposes,
Yeah.
we're 98% there. That's just a great, I agree. We'll get that from the council. In fact, what we'll probably do is have the executive director from
Yeah.
the Northwest Accreditation Alliance be the one that presents
Yeah.
primarily to council. Doesn't do that.
That's great. Long time, it's been, guys, you need to be very proud.
I'm told, maybe Tiff can confirm this, their badge used to say the first.
Accredited
we were the first
person or-
accredited
Yes.
department in the state.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was.
So I don't know, at some point,
That was
100 years
understated.
ago, we stopped being accredited. for some
No,
reason,
it
but
was
that
only like 98-ish. Yeah, just we didn't want to.
Well,
A lot of hoops.
yeah, what I heard was it was like, well, it just takes too much time and money. It's not worth it. And it's like, I guess it's in the eyes of the beholder. No, that's super news. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that is great.
I'm excited.
Is there some way that we could hear what the process, I mean, in a very short time, hear what the process is? I mean, just a quick synopsis. of
Yeah,
it.
there are, I think I have a number here, 108 different, what they call standards
Mhm.
that they're checking. And they're primarily related to all our policies to make sure with the policies that we need to meet accreditation, A, that we have the policy, B, that the policy includes all the information that it's supposed to be accredited. And then there also is a proof that has to go along with it. So you can't just write a policy that says what you're supposed to do. You have to be able to provide some level of verification
Okay.
that you actually do it. And so they go and check the proofs, make sure that everything we have a policy that we say we have it on, we actually have it in place to do it. So that's what's taking all the work.
And the proofs have to be like current, you can't,
Not from 5 years ago.
right, it has to be within the accreditation period.
Right.
So good, so awesome.
And they were like, for example, he was talking about, I think it was 5 categories. Annual reports on use of force, annual reports on complaints, annual reports on pursuits, annual reporting on inspections of the property when it
You already say use of force.
yeah, use of force. And so we're way ahead of the curve on those even before the accreditation started. So we're in a really good place.
Well, congratulations. I
Thank
think
you.
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. Lieutenant Crowley is really excited to get back to actually doing it.
Give them something else, tell them it's a gift from me.
Yeah, exactly. Find a new project.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, the jail accreditation is coming.
No, but I've been
That's big.
threatening Crowley that I'm gonna ask you to
That's
put
a
him
big
in.
one.
That's
Yeah,
He needs to,
He's a little break.
do that.
He needs a little break.
what I keep telling him, I'm like, I'm the teeth.
He started to look at it back in the day, but kind of, so he should be used to it.
When you're really good at something, you kind of get pigeonholed and do more of it, so you should well balance that. I don't know if you guys heard, but we did have kind of a big storm recently. Did you hear about that?
Here things.
So I have a few updates, these are basically the numbers that I shared with council a couple weeks ago. Just to give you some perspective on the volume of calls. So we pulled all the stats between Friday night the 12th and then Friday night the 19th. So we took 202 calls of down power lines, 83 calls for public assistance, which included driving people to hotels, responding to calls that might have otherwise gone to Cahoots because Cahoots was essentially unavailable during the vast majority of that storm. We went 176 welfare checks that people called in, 182 calls regarding trees down, 82 traffic crashes. So we had a total of just under 1,500 calls for service in that time frame. And by our math, about 700-ish of those were directly storm related. So it was busy to say the least. And so you compound that on top of the power outages, employees that had their own homes damaged and were even having trouble coming to work, and families at home with no power and boil water thing, all that. We had people sleeping here at the PD, just getting naps between shifts because there were certain people that couldn't make it to work. And so the people that were here essentially stayed here to keep the wheels on the bus. We had a dispatcher that was sleeping in the car out in the parking lot, because they didn't want to drive home in the ice, and then they just come right back in because somebody else couldn't be at work. So it was overall just an outstanding team effort to kind of make that work. We had detectives that week that we pulled out of the office. We put them in cars, just driving around town, doing welfare checks, giving out things to people, driving people around to get supplies, whether it's fuel for a generator or whatever it was. SWAT training, I can't remember what day it was, a Friday?
Mhm.
So it's a big SWAT training day, so most of them were work that day, and they essentially got to work and then they changed their mission, and they just kind of went out into the town with their chainsaws and everything else, and they were just, they built a funny story. I don't remember what road they were on, but there was 2 women, there was some branches out on the road, and they essentially had like a little handsaw like you used to cut a 2x4, and they're on the street trying to cut a 2x4. These cars pull up and all these cops jump out. Women thought they were in trouble. They fire up their chainsaws. They cut this all up, throw it off the road. And the ladies wanted to take pictures with them, and then they packed up and on they went. And they basically just drove around town to jump out, help people that were least expecting it. And it was really good. It was fun. Volunteer patrol people came in. That's a new downtown walking beat kind of downtown patrol that we just started recently. They wanted to come in and help, and so they made their way in the ice. Bravely went out in the ice just to walk around, be present and be seen. And those are just some of the things we did during the storm. It was clearly devastating, as we all know, for a lot of people. But I think SP really did everything that we could to try to step up in this kind of emergency. And I mean, frankly, it just shows that in a state of emergency, we have a whole bunch of cops that aren't doing what you typically would think would be cop things. But the reality is there was just no ability for anybody to get around. People couldn't even go out to, like I say, get gas their own generator because they couldn't get out of their driveway. And so it's just a good lesson for us that these kind of emergencies and disasters happen. We're just gonna be able to pivot and kind of be agile and do whatever it takes to get the job done.
Nice. I thank you.
Award ceremony. So Tuesday at 4 o'clock, Wildish, is our annual award ceremony. I'm hoping everybody else back. Council got invites. Everybody get invites to that?
We got invoice.
It would be great if you could go. Want to bring friends, family. It's an open to the public kind of event. I thought it turned out great last year. We learned some things, and we're going to try to make it even better this year. And we had one very significant event, 2023, that we're really going to highlight in this. So I think it will show up. It's going to be very impactful and meaningful, and just highlight the tremendous work that this agency have done in 2023. So hopefully, it can be good.
I mean,
And on 13th of February, we're having a hiring ceremony. The one same one we would typically have in the EOC upstairs, but the EOC is actually an EOC. So we're going to be doing it in council chambers. So I think there's going to be enough room there. But we're going to be promoting a sergeant, Tony Del Castillo. We hired a lateral officer, Caitlin Loper. She's going to get sworn in. We hired a brand new officer, David Busenbark. Another new officer, Niles Alvarez. New detention officer, Scott Morgan, and a lateral dispatcher, Kayla Davis. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 folks we're going to be hiring or promoting on that. So that's February 13th at 3:30 in city council chambers. I believe. That's my update. We have questions?
As you know, I always have comment.
Of course.
Well, I wanted everybody here to know too, that this man and the deputy chief were out walking around in my neighborhood, which was not safe at all. You see ambulances that are chained up, fire trucks that are 4x4 fire trucks chained up, going down my street sideways, and people sliding down the street. I mean, it was, I couldn't move my truck. Extremely dangerous. I'm out front looking at this horrible mess. And who do I see? I see the chief and the deputy chief walking down my street with studded shoes. And I'm like, I had to look twice and say, Chief? And you, hey, I'm like, but these guys, I mean, they were, where do you see that in a US town where the chief of police is out in very hazardous conditions, going door to door, which is typically not something that the command staff would do. And he was out there like it was every day. No problem, that's what I do. And so you make us very proud of you. So deputy chief too, it's just.
I appreciate that. It was, I hate to use the word enjoyable because it was a tragic.
No, I get that.
tragic
I get
situation for a lot of
enjoyable.
people. It was very, affirming to be out there and,
Yeah.
People really needed to see somebody from the city, whether it was DPW, fire, police, they needed to see somebody. And so we were out there, we had our detectives out there. There was a lot of people out there doing that. We just happened to come around the corner on your street, but it wasn't just us. That was a team effort. That kind of thing. Yeah.
But I mean, that gives you, I mean, I've got people sending me pictures of the our SWAT guys out there chainsawing those trees, state or city crews out there chainsawing trees. But when you see staff, and the city attorney, our city attorney in Springfield here, went door to door handing out information to people that are stranded by the ICE, et cetera, giving resources, that information to those folks. That's a city attorney. Her staff, the assistant city attorney, I saw her wrapping up yellow caution tape around some of the brush around the trees. When I stopped by, I thought she lived at the house where she was wrapping the caution tape around. And I'm like, you live here? And she goes, no. I'm like, okay. She goes, I just don't want any cars to run into these because you can't see these brush piles at night. And I'm looking at, and I drive further, and she had already gone down the entire length of the street with her and her husband. So it was just terrible to have something like this, but to see city staff hearts shine and to come in, and I mean, it was just so humbling, and it really is. I mean, and not that I'm completely shocked and not surprised by it, but to see it like that is just, it just won't be still my heart, you know, and it comes back, it's like, okay, this is why I love my community. This is why I put in the time, my time, they put in there, this is why, it's not, it's just amazing. Sorry, I mean, I wanted to let people know how proud we are of you in this, and it's all the council and Sean Van Gordon, the mayor, feel the exact same way I do.
Any other comments, questions? Any updates on the minority?
I have not received any applications for the cultural minority community vacancy. It closes February 26th. So if you know anyone that's interested, please, I sent you guys an email that has the link to the application and everything. If you can forward to people,
Yeah.
that would be great. And then, this is the year that we will have to meet with council and with our annual report. So we need to pick an annual or subcommittee for the annual report.
And are we actually meeting with them, or are we just submitting a report?
Last year we submitted it, we're supposed to meet with them every other year. So
That's
this
what I
is the
thought.
year we're supposed to meet.
Okay.
I know that they were trying to do like one day where all the committees meet with the council.
Right.
So I don't know if I don't know if that's gonna happen or if they've chosen a day, but hopefully it's not before we get it done.
What we need is some volunteers, a couple of volunteers to put this annual report together. Last year it was Carla and Brittany and myself did it. So I'm looking for, Colin, why am I looking at you?
What does the annual report consist of? Is it just like a review for the year?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Recap.
recap of
recap.
every. Yeah.
It's fairly easy.
Go back and read the minutes. Each meeting, that would give you a really good overview.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So Carla, want to do it again this year?
Yeah, I saw that smile. You're volunteered.
I would be happy to, but if somebody else wants to, I don't want to steal the opportunity from somebody else.
Maybe get Jonathan involved a little bit. Throwing you under the bus, Jonathan.
That's okay. It's better than going under the fire truck, I guess.
So proud of you. It's this last ice storm. So proud of your department and everybody in it.
Oh, well, thank you. I can't take credit for all of it, but we appreciate it. It's just an opportunity to do the things that we do. It's just, kind of like we see all those kind of unspoken heroes. Like nobody thinks about utility workers and sanitation workers until they can't come do the job that they do behind the scenes all the time. So, it's kind of how we look at it. It's what we do. And sometimes we get a spotlight on us, which we try to avoid, most of us anyway. But yeah, I'm glad were able to help.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for volunteering.
Oh, so natural. Do that.
Oh, do we want one other person?
Well, I don't
Did
mind
he,
helping.
did he volunteer?
Yeah, no, he did.
Okay.
He did. And Cindy now volunteered too. Thank you, Cindy. Thanks, Carla.
Sure.
Jonathan, Cindy, and,
John, Carla, Cindy.
oh, okay, not you.
Well, I'll be on it too, so, yeah,
Totally up to you.
yeah.
I will set a meeting for probably sometime in March. I'll probably try to, if I can, just do it on the first Thursday, and we can do it Zoom. We don't have to meet in person. And
Okay.
I'll send you out last year's
Mhm.
so you guys have an idea, and then we can meet and decide how we're gonna tackle that.
It really is fairly easy,
Yeah.
everybody, so.
Yeah.
Fairly. Okay, thank you. All right, we have policy reviews. So has everybody had a chance to look these over? Missing persons and runaways, 82.2.5. Attached. Pardon me?
It was all written.
Yes, yes,
And we just redid it every.
yeah. So any
Any questions?
comments, any questions on this?
Typos?
Yeah, no typos.
I mean, just so everybody knows, whether it's a missing person or a runaway, we are always gonna take that report. It's not like you see on TV sometimes, so like, oh, they haven't been gone for 24 hours, we can't take the report yet. And so none of that's real. If you call and somebody's missing, we will take a missing report. And then, as you can see in the policy, there's different criteria that would raise the level of notification, you know, all the way up to an Amber Alert and enter people in the database and all that kind of stuff. It's just gonna depend on the circumstances of the case, you know, there's suspicious activity, are they, you know, at risk and why? Is there, you know, violence involved? And there's all these different criteria that if they meet them, we can just call OSP, sound the alarm, put the Amber Alert out and call in church parties, and we can do all of that. But there's certain criteria that we met for that level of response. But we're never gonna tell you that we're not gonna take a missing person anymore or whatever.
TV shows, they love. Okay. No questions or comments?
Quick question, Chief, on. This is not missing person or runaways, but along the lines of our recent weather emergency and alerts. Do we have, or I know we have the ability to, but is there a policy in place in regards to extreme public hazard which occurred with the ice, as far as maybe a reverse 911 text warning, which is similar to what you'd get for a silver alert, et cetera, for people in regional areas? And I know it probably would be coordinated through the county EOC, maybe.
Lane alerts is done through Lane County Dispatch. Our dispatch can call and ask them to
Right.
do one for the city of Springfield. Is that not covered in this public?
Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah,
not for like disaster.
Oh.
Yeah,
right.
it's not-
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about for when you have an extreme public safety risk, which I think that this over the ice created.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could do that for ice. I mean, I see something like that more for like the dam's breaking. We need to send a notification and tell some people to do something right now, or, you know, or lock down in your house or whatever it is, depending on the
Right.
circumstances. That's an interesting thought when we have a 7-day long event where people are
Right.
stuck in their house.
I was just concerned because there's a lot of folks, for example, because it was associated with no power. And so that instantly cut people off typically from their Wi-Fi. And there were several cell towers down as well.
Very sketchy.
And so basically the only electronic communication available in some areas was ham radio, but that's it. But I'm just thinking and it would probably come up in the after action report, but after action meetings. but-
That's a great point. When we have the, you know, those technological challenges in an event like that, and there's some message we have to get to the public to tell them something critical. How do we do that if cell phone towers are down and it's icy and you can't drive around with a loudspeaker and tell people
Right.
anything? It's like, how do you do it? You know?
Whether it be
Question
natural,
for the emergency manager.
Yeah, that's good.
whether it be natural disaster or man-made, it seems like there's a link.
Every time we talk about radios and communication, everybody's forgot about citizen.
Oh, yeah, see,
It's $20 each everywhere.
Yeah.
Put one in your closet.
Yeah.
20 people out here, so.
CBs. But anyway, I just bring that up to where we can maybe get it on some sort of agenda item of some sort.
I think it just ties right in perfectly with all the after action for this whole storm. That's exactly the situation we ran into.
Right. Anyway, it's a little off topic, but it's under a public alert.
Good, thank you.
So people know that stuff is considered. Schools and your, or the schools, very similar.
Thank you. Okay, the Amber Alert procedures. We're gonna get a chance to look at that one as well. 2.2.6.
Ties right in with the missing persons runaway one. You have to meet certain criteria like we talked about to send an Amber Alert. It's all listed in there.
I have any comments on it. Anybody else?
Sorry, I didn't even. I got ahead of it, sorry.
Okay.
The only question I have is, the Springfield Police Department has the ability without going through a bunch of hoops to issue an Amber.
Well, yes and no. So we have to meet the criteria.
Right.
But what we would do is notify OSP, and there's things you have to do, because when you put a Amber Alert out, tips could start flooding in, and if you don't have anybody to answer the phone, and you know, OSP has a mechanism, they've they're set up for that. So if we were gonna issue an Amber Alert, we'd probably ask OSP, like, can you guys man the phones or we'll help you man the phone? Because we probably don't have the capacity to just take a legitimate kidnapping tip line all by ourselves. But if it was something of that gravity, I mean, that's all hands on deck. That's, you know, multi-agency response and federal agencies involved and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we can do we can't push the button ourselves necessarily, but we can make it happen through our OSP partner.
Just out of curiosity, what's the start to finish, how quickly can an Amber Alert be?
I think it could be extremely quickly, especially given the circumstances. I mean, if somebody saw a child abducted off the side of the street and they call 911, we're gonna be pulling that information together and getting that to OSP without delay. We're not gonna get stuck in a bunch of red tape because we can't put it out and we can articulate the facts. Call OSP like we need to do this right. We have a car description. This just happened 15 minutes ago. We can make it happen quick.
Chief,
That's what it's for.
last year, I think, we had the child that they weren't abducted, but somebody was following them and the couple stopped it. Would that have been, was that an Amber Alert type thing, or were you just in pursuit of the person?
Yeah,
Since the
he
child
didn't
wasn't
take
taken.
anybody.
Yeah,
They saw the guy try it and then they followed the guy.
Yeah.
She was fine.
right.
Had somebody seen him take her and they didn't follow the guy and they called 911, that would absolutely be an Amber Alert
Okay.
situation.
Gotcha. Okay. Anybody have anything to share with the group? Anything? Joe's in pizza, so.
I just got pepperoni and a cheese.
Yeah,
Didn't know how many people would be here. and then-
Oh, it's perfect.
yeah.
Got one for them and got one right here.
No, you have to save that one or share that one.
Anybody know community sharing, nothing to share?
Anybody have any fun during the ice storm?
We evacuated 10 group homes into our ambulance building on 40th. Had over 30 medically fragile clients in there for 5 days.
Oh, my gosh.
It was
Wow.
pretty.
Did you have
intense.
power there? Were you?
It's on a generator.
Okay.
Has an underground system and stuff.
Excellent.
Very good.
Yeah, it was great.
So I don't know if that's president or not, but we're talking about CPR, like a life-saving thing that happened recently. I saw the email, we were like, hey, that was me.
Yeah,
Oh, yes, that's
yeah,
right.
he passed out just like feet away from our CPR training center here in downtown. Those are my offices. And someone came in, said that he was laying outside and I went out there and yeah, he wasn't breathing. His eyes were just open and like not responding, no pulse. Yeah, I started CPR and 2 minutes into it, he started breathing.
Wow.
Pretty amazing. Yeah, kept
Wow,
going a
that's-
couple more minutes. Please came.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was cool. To hear that he like survived it, because I really didn't know he was really fragile when they took him.
Yeah. Have you heard any more about him since?
Nope, just that one email, but yeah.
That's a great feeling, didn't it?
Well, I felt really bad for a while. I felt good as soon as I got the email that he was okay, 'cause I wasn't sure, but
Yes. So good.
That's great.
Well, if you come to our award ceremony next week, you will hear new stories like that. Happy endings.
All right.
I do have a story. It's not that great. I do want to kind of share. So last time I was here, I shared about how in my group homes, I don't know if everybody knows, I have a caregiving agency here in Springfield, 10 group homes, 30 supported living homes off of Main Street. All of the clients are developmentally disabled. And last time I brought up that some of these clients are really violent. And we're working with caregivers. They're not nurses or highly trained people. They are entry level, mostly staff that are coming to help clients with disabilities. But sometimes the clients get really violent and we've called the police for help. And there's been a few times where like I felt unsafe, they felt unsafe. Things were pretty scary. People have been seriously injured. And there was a few examples that I gave at the last meeting. And then after that meeting, my agency was reported for neglecting these clients by calling the police. And we went through an investigation. And usually when people report abuse, it's because it's immediate. These were all examples that I gave that occurred over the summer. But So I went through that, my agency was found like unsubstantiated, we didn't. But ironically, after that investigation, we had a situation where a client was pretty much dumped in our agency, like we didn't even admit this client, but they wouldn't let us kick him out, and it was just a weird situation, and the client became very aggressive, grabbed a pen, stabbed one of the staff.
Oh my
I
God.
called the police came out, and he was so mean and rude, but he was like, this person has a disability and not of sound mind, and they're not a threat. My staff's devastated, everybody's talking about like, don't call them. Within 24 hours, that client stabbed one of my employees with a knife 2 inches from their heart, collapsed their lung, and it was a director with a lot of experience. And I think it could have been prevented. And I think that like if myself or the staff were heard, and if it's not this person has a disability and therefore we're not taking their threat seriously, like as we would if someone that they presume doesn't have a disability. But you know, I brought it up, and then this situation happened, and so I just feel like I wanted to raise the concern again.
Did you raise that immediately after it happened? Anybody here at the meeting?
The officers that responded at the stabbing, I talked to them about it, and I've been thinking about how to respond to it, like who do I talk to or what, but yeah, so I don't know, I thought I'd bring it up here.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's obviously something we definitely need to address. I guess advice for you or anybody else, if something happens and you're not happy with your police service, please let us know immediately. We don't have to save it to the meeting. I mean, you can get a hold of us anytime and you're on SPAC. You got a direct line to the chief, and anybody can come into the front desk and say, I don't think this was appropriate, and I want to talk to the watch commander and initiate complaints. We can look into it and get to the bottom of it. Because I want to address, I want people satisfied with their police service, and if you're not satisfied, then that's something to take very seriously. We want to dive into that.
Well, in the context, I just went through 3 investigations right after, you know, so I was wrapping that up when this happened.
How do those investigations come about? Who makes the complaint?
It, in the reports that I got a copy of, they can't say who called in, but it was mostly the cahoots people that were interviewed for those sorts of things, yeah. Yeah, and you know, caregiving can be so challenging and so rewarding too, but these caregivers are definitely at risk of being seriously injured. There was a caregiver that was murdered a few months ago in Medford, one that was, they were beat to death. One that was stabbed to death in Portland, I think 2 months ago. And so, you know, it's something very serious that a lot of times when we get referrals from the county, they don't give us a full history of a client or if something happens. So yeah, I think it's a real risk to the community sometimes.
And from a PD's perspective, the last thing we want is anybody injured or worse at all. But I think what you're describing is a system that is just totally broken. There's probably people being placed in some of these places that really shouldn't be placed there in the first place. And then again, you know, law enforcement gets called in to try to save the day or solve a problem that never should have existed in the first place for you or anybody else. And so, you know, we're always going to try to do the best we can. The situation we've got, but this is a symptom, I think, of just a larger structural systemic issue that we have here in Oregon and right across the country.
Well, yeah, I mean, the officer that was so rude that night when he was threatening to stab someone with a pen, I mean, he kept saying, I'm not going to solve your problem for you in your facility. And I'm like, well, technically we're a non-facility. The way that we're licensed is not the same as like a lockdown, like memory care or something. And so I kind of feel like officers don't really have enough like information maybe about the differences between, like, there are some places where they're highly trained and can do holds on clients. We're not allowed to do holds on clients, you know? And so we call the police a lot. I mean, like every single week, right? And so like I get a lot of interactions with them, and I just feel like overall there's maybe a lack of information on like what to expect from like a foster home or a group home versus like institution. So
As far as the level of service from employees.
yeah, because he's just, yeah, when he kept saying like, I'm not gonna solve your problem for you, you get paid to deal with this. You guys are supposed to be trained. And it's like, we're trained on CPR and like a 2-day behavior class. Like that's all the state requires for these like entry-level staff to, you know, handle these clients. So I was like, I think that might apply in some like lockdown facilities, but not here. group homes in Springfield.
I don't know what the triage process is at the state level when they're deciding who gets placed in what homes and what their histories are like. And again, like I said, are people getting placed in some of these residential group homes situations that maybe they shouldn't be, but there's nowhere else to put them, so that's what's happening, and then you're put at risk, and then the police are put at risk, and it's just not good for anybody.
OSH. Hospital. Have you thought, you may probably have thought about potentially subscribing to a panic alarm?
Yeah, I mean, the staff are pretty good. Like we have like systems in place where we can get in touch with the police pretty quickly. And sometimes they're quick and the response is great. But a lot of times there's situations where like we had one where the client was only there for 24 hours, broke every single light fixture, broke every single piece of furniture, threw his body through the front window, and he was sitting out in the yard. And then the officer was just like, your problem, your problem. And I'm like, all the clients are shaking in the house scared. Can you please help? Cahoots was there. They left pretty much immediately after. And then the officer said that he wouldn't take him to the hospital. I said, this is really like a mental health hold. This is not safe. It's in like really dense community with all these duplexes in this cul-de-sac. And the officer told me he wasn't going to take him. I went inside. Next thing I know, officer's gone, client's gone. We do missing persons protocol. It turns out the officer took him to the hospital. And that was in like July. And that was one of the investigations that I was reported for 6 months. But I'm just trying to follow my protocols too. And I also don't want to overburden the police, but I mean, pretty intense situations sometimes for staff.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to talk to you more about it offline and try to come up with some solutions, because clearly it's an issue that you're dealing with, we're dealing with, and it's stuff we both deal with every single day. A lot of different places. It's frustrating for everybody. Bottom line is we want to do the best we can so people don't get hurt, but we're not gonna have to give right answer either. We take somebody and put them in jail. Or they're suffering from some kind of an issue where jail's not the right place for them. We take them to the emergency room sometimes and put them on a mental hold sometimes. And then how long does the hospital hold them before the hospital says, well, they're not really a threat, and then they just let them right back out again and they're on the street or right back to your place. And it's just, again, I don't want to sound like a squeaky wheel, but it's just not a good situation.
I would say a majority of them, I only one time, there's probably been over 50 calls, maybe 100 calls, like very serious stuff. One time they took someone to jail besides this recent stabbing. So for the most part, we just don't get any options. I mean, a lot of times they go to the hospital, but like they don't normally ever go to jail.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, it's okay. And then, thankfully, the person that was stabbed is like doing really well and he's okay and stuff. And the person that stabbed him is, they were taken away. And I think they've been released now, but they were taken away long enough so that we could officially evict them. So, yeah.
We need to find two that coordinate with how long the lawful eviction could occur. Have it set up to where someone gets pulled out of there, that they can be held somewhere, even in the municipal jail. Enough for that clock to tick by, and then
It's 3 days, 24 hours for if the cops take them away, then we have 24 hours.
and yeah, I know.
And then 3 days.
The judge is only limited as to what he can hold somebody in jail for.
Well, under POH, but if there's still a municipal code violation or misdemeanor,
I know what it is.
you got at least harassment, maybe physical harassment, so.
When I try to say like, we need to press charges, they're like, no, they're not of sound mind. Nope. And gosh, give me like 24 hours or sometimes it's 72 hours depending on the situation, but just don't really get there. But yeah.
It seemed like it always had at least a minimum of a harassment.
Actually, and that would really help because once it's on their record, then that's kind of what qualifies them for that next level of care.
Yes,
It's somebody that needs help to begin with, to get them to the next level of care. I mean, it just seems.
and then you have a person that then gets an arrest record. In their life now, recovery for example, if they're off their medications and we're not manageable while they're off medications, they're on medications that become stabilized or stabilized, or once they get put away for 3 days to get those charges, well, they get stabilized, for example, while they're in jail with medications, they come out, they're fully stable and functional citizen. But now they got to try to make sure they can have or maintain gainful employment now with a recent arrest record. And so it's really a toilet.
Yeah, but once they go into jail, then they do get like a higher level of like, yeah, there's more attention to their referral pack.
Chew right there.
Mhm.
All right, anything else from anyone? You guys on the Zoom, anything?
I have really appreciated this conversation. When I was in my 20s, I was those caregivers, and I remember many of nights like that, and I just love this conversation and wish that we had had these 20, 30 years ago. So glad to be part of it and love that we're having the conversation now.
Thank you, everybody. We'll dismiss at 6:42.
Pizza people.